Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today we have Bookopoly Part 3. If you're new here and you don't know what Bookopoly is the way that I'm picking my TBRs for 2019. Essentially, I use this board, I have 5 rows, and this gives me prompts to fulfill when I choose my TBR. So this video is going to be my TBR for March. If you haven't seen a Bookopoly video before and you would like a full tour of every square on this board, plus the rules for Bookopoly, I will pop a link up here in the cards to my very first Bookopoly video, which will explain everything. But for you guys that know what's going on, let's just get on with it. So last warning for people who haven't watched my previous Bookopoly videos, I'm about to spoil what the roles were for last month, so if you would like to leave, then please do that now. As I told you last month, at the beginning of each Bookopoly video, I'm going to be sharing with you how many of last month's Bookopoly books I did actually manage to read. So on my TBR in February, we had Forever by Maggie Stiefvater for the challenge to read a magical realism or paranormal book. Girl Made of Stars for the challenge to read a contemporary or a romance. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet was a 5-star prediction. Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris was a book outside of my comfort zone. Changeling by Philippa Gregory was a historical fiction. And An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard was to fulfill the challenge to read a library book. So out of these 6 books, I have completed 5 and I am halfway through An Unkindness of Magicians. However, we have 2 full days of the month left at the time I am filming this for me to finish this book, so please check in with my wrap up to see whether I managed it. If you would like to keep up with my Bookopoly progress in almost real time, I would urge you to check out my weekly reading vlogs. Every time I start a new book that's on my Bookopoly TBR, I tell you which number it is. So for example, this is my 3rd Bookopoly book of the month and which challenge it's fulfilling, and you will get to see not only how I feel about them, but how far along I am and whether I've completed them. So now we got all that stuff out of the way, let's just get into our first roll of the month. So the last roll for my February TBR was to read a library book, so that is where we're starting this month. And let's go with the first roll, which is 11. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Which is to read a book set in a culturally diverse world. So roll number 1 is one of my personal favourite squares on the board, and that is to read a book that is set in a culturally diverse setting. Now this can be a contemporary that's set in another country, or this can be a fantasy that heavily draws on mythology that is not from the UK or America, so East Asian, Indian, etc. And for this challenge I have picked Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. This was gifted to me by Rachel from Rachel Marie Book Junkie, and as I've said before, I want to be prioritising the books that I was gifted by my bookish friends over the holiday period. I believe that the author, Natasha Nyan, is Malaysian, and I think that this book has a heavily East Asian inspired setting. Girls of Paper and Fire is a young adult East Asian fantasy that follows a girl who I believe is in the paper caste. Now in this world there are different castes of people, and I think paper is the lowest, and it means that you're a full human. Like I said, there are other castes in this world, and one of those castes, which I believe is the highest, is made up of demon people, and I don't mean like people possessed by demons, they are actually like full embodiments of demons. And our main character is picked to be the consort of the king of this world, who is one of like the demon caste. I'm really excited to read this book because it was a hyped release. There are mixed reviews out about it at the moment, so I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to fall on this. I do believe that this book deals with some harder topics like sexual assault, as the main character is unwillingly pulled into this harem, but it also features a sapphic romance, which I'm excited to read about because I don't read a whole lot of books that include that. You guys know me, I love an East Asian inspired fantasy, and this one is high on my priority list. Roll number 2. 7. Ah, this is a chance card. Okay, so the top chance card is Bonfire by Kristen Ritter. So roll number 2 was our first card pull of the entire Bookopoly series so far, and essentially my chance cards are a mix of 8 books that I'm really excited to read off my shelves and 8 books that I'm not so excited about, but I do want to read them because I own them. And I pulled Bonfire by Kristen Ritter. Sadly, Bonfire is one of the ones that I am less excited to read, and I did pick this up because it was only 50 pence. I think I got it last year, and I know that it was a pretty hyped 2017 release because it is by Kristen Ritter, who is an actress. The main thing that I know her for is she was in Don't Trust the Bee and Apartment 23, but you guys probably all know her from Jessica Jones. So this is an adult thriller, and I haven't looked into it a lot because I kind of like to go into thrillers blind, and it wasn't like I was super hyped to read this. But I think it follows a main character who is an environmental lawyer, and she has essentially left the town that she grew up in, which is the premise of a lot of thrillers, and for some reason or another she ends up going back to investigate some sort of environmental crisis with this big firm, and somehow she finds some connections to something that happened in her past. Roll number 3. 7. Which is to read an adult fantasy. Roll number 3 was to read an adult fantasy, and this is actually a book that I don't own yet. On the day that I'm filming this, it is this particular book's book birthday, but I didn't pay for quick shipping, so I guess it will be with me tomorrow. But that book is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, I'm quite happy that I could fit this into my Bookopoly TBR because I am a co-host of Rachel Marie Book Junkies Book Junkie Book Club for March, where we will be reading Priory of the Orange Tree. So I've had this book on pre-order for quite some time because I really like The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This is a fantasy as opposed to like a dystopian sci-fi kind of thing, so I'm a little dubious about how much I'm gonna love it because obviously it's gonna be a little different from what I know from her, but as I like her as an author, I was excited to get to it anyway. So what I know about the plot of this is that it follows 6 different women. I think they may be in 6 different timelines, and it's a high fantasy. I think there's some dragons in there. Literally, that is all I know. But honestly, this is a thick girl. This book comes in at around 830 pages, so it needed to be on my Bookopoly TBR because otherwise getting through it would have been one hell of a struggle on top of all of these books. If you want to know the details on the Book Junkie Book Club and would like to join us for the live show in early April, I will put a link to the Twitter down below, which does have all of the details. Roll number 4. 10 and a double. Oh no. It's to read a classic. Roll number 4. We rolled a double again. What I really do not need is to be adding more and more books to these TBRs. Like, trust me, I don't. And then to top it off, it's a classic. I have to read a classic. So I have chosen Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is an adult thriller. I believe it was originally published around 1935-ish. And my mum actually bought me this from a charity shop. There's so much glare. And the reason that she bought this for me is that I really love the Alfred Hitchcock movie. So sadly, there's not going to be a whole lot of suspense in this because I do know the plot twist, but my god, is it one hell of a plot twist. So this book follows a young woman who is, I think she's on holiday. And while she's there, she catches the attention of this striking widow called Max. They quickly get married and they go to his home, which is the famous Mandalay. You may have heard of it. And when there, as she is trying to fit into the life of this really rich guy's wife, she is haunted by the ghost of his ex-wife Rebecca. I love this story. I have not read the book, which is why I'm so desperate to read it, and to be honest, of all the classics on my shelf, this is the one that I'm actually genuinely super hyped to read and less feel obligated to read it because it's a great work of literature. So because I rolled a double, I have to add another book to my TBR this month, and that is going to be 5. Which is to read a library book again. Roll number 5 was yet again a library book, and I'm kind of happy that this came up because I have 3 books out from the library that I haven't read aside from An Unkindness of Magicians, and so I kind of need this to be coming out so I can prioritize those. And so this month I will be reading Legion and the Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. This is a bind up of 2 novellas, and I picked it up because the second novella, Emperor's Soul, is an Elantris novella, which is the only book by Brandon Sanderson I've read, and I'm journeying through the Cosmere, but I kind of want to wrap up everything that's tied to Elantris before I move on to Mistborn. I do know there's an Elantris sequel coming out sometime in the future, but sort of everything that's published, all the little novellas that go with it, I would like to get through before I move on. And then Legion, I think, was just like a science fiction detective novella, but is now like I think a 4-part novella series. So if I do enjoy Legion, I will try and get the other parts and read those as well. So yeah, essentially I did pick this up because it was a great chance for me to read the novella in print. I don't love reading ebooks because I find that if I don't have a physical reminder of a book, then I don't read it. So essentially what I'm saying is that it is unlikely that this novella would ever have gotten read if I hadn't have chanced upon this physical bind up in my library. And roll number 6 is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is a viewer recommendation. Okay, so the bonus roll number 6, is a viewer recommendation, and this is like really exciting. So I have pulled books for all the categories. I have no idea what I'm pulling for viewer recommendation. So if you watched my first Bookopoly video, you will know that a while back I posted a video called My Entire Own TBR, which had every book that I owned on it up until like the beginning of December, like pre-Christmas 2018. And I said that if you would like me to read any particular book that I own, then please go watch that video. You can see everything that I own that I haven't read and tell me what you want me to read. So in my Bookopoly video, I said that if I landed on this, I was going to go onto that video and I was going to just pick the top comment and pick one book off that comment. So I'm going to do this with you guys here today, and we are going to find out what I'm going to be reading. So I don't know how to screen grab from my phone so that I can insert it like up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around to the back of the camera so you can see my phone and we can find out what I'm going to be reading. Okay, so it's this video. Oh, yep. Here's an ad. Let's not. Okay, comments. Oh, okay, that's just Rocky commenting on my alphabetization. Oh, here we go. So, Daniela in Prague. The idea of your own library sounds great. I have currently a tiny physical TBR of 12 books and it still feels like a to-do list when I look at it. My tip to prioritize is Scythe. Okay, so this turned out really well. In March, I'm going to be reading Scythe by Neil Shusterman, which is the first book in the Arc of a Scythe series. So this takes place in a dystopian world where we have conquered death. Essentially, nobody can die unless a scythe says that they do. So literally, if you have an illness, it can be cured. If you have an accident, you can be brought back to life. The only way you can die is if a scythe decides it's your time. To become a scythe, you go to a training academy, and I think every time 2 scythes enter, only one of them will actually become a scythe. And I feel like there are also 2 types of scythe in this world. Some of them have like a really good system of deciding who should die, and others are like really aggressive and just do whatever the hell they want. So I'm crazy excited to read this, and like this is like a complete shock. I really like this way of picking what to read. Okay, so now that we've done all of the Bookopoly books, I just have a few books for read-alongs I would like to share with you that I will be reading in the month of March. So first up, for my read-along, which is the A Song of Ice and Fire read-along, I will be starting Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. I'll put a link to the announcement video for this in the cards if you would like to join us. But essentially for the months of March and April, we will be reading Clash of Kings. Now this is chunky. It has 800 pages, so I would like to get to around page 400 in the month of March. I really loved Game of Thrones and I'm super excited to continue this series. I can't believe how much I'm loving it. I really didn't think I would be this into it. If you guys are waiting for the live show of Game of Thrones and you are watching this reasonably soon after it has been uploaded, then the live show for Game of Thrones is going to be on my channel on the 3rd of March, which is this coming Sunday, at 8 PM GMT, which I think is about 3 PM EST, but please don't quote me on the time zone conversion. For Ryan's Harry Potter read-along, I will be reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which is the book for March. I'm not going to tell you what Harry Potter is about because I don't want to insult your intelligence, but I just want to tell you that I'm hella excited to read this one because I haven't read the series since my childhood, but from what I remember, Goblet of Fire is my favourite, and I'm excited to see whether it still is or not. So I'm really hyped for this one. And then lastly, this one is really a maybe because it just depends on if I have time. But a few booktubers, including Sassy from Miss Sassy Cassie, Cass from the Little Book Owl, and Chloe from Books with Chloe, are going to be starting a read-along in March of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor. I really want to read this series this year, so I'm hoping that I do get a chance to read this. But this is like the very bottom of my TBR because I have to get through that whole stack of books before I can pick up this. I really love Strange the Dream and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor, which is why I'm so excited to read this series. And all I really know about it is that it follows a girl called Karu, who is an art student in Prague, but is also a messenger for demons or chimera or something like that. Don't know a whole ton, but I love Laini Taylor's writing, and Strange the Dreamer blew me away, and a few people have even said that this is even better. So I'm really hyped. So that is it for all of the books I will be reading in March. I am also co-hosting Readathon. I will link my announcement to that up here, but it is a week-long readathon where we will be rereading books. I'm going to have a separate TBR for that, and I would maybe like to take part in Buzzwordathon, but that really depends on if I have time. So that is everything for Bookopoly Part 3. Please let me know if you have liked this video. Let me know which one of these books you are most excited for me to read. Also, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.